Hello everyone, you have come to Tata Comic Preview channel. Let read together. Have fun. This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. Who was playing the flute with such skills? The melody floated on the spring breeze and resonated across the city of Luoyang. The melody was pure, devoid of any primal qi, as it was carried by the wind, mesmerizing its listeners. The fact that Konk's flute melody could control wild beasts was common knowledge now. However, for a vicious beast such as Tiango, whose wild nature was difficult to tame, to obey the commands of the tune was a shocking discovery. Little Yuan applauded and said, "Good, good, good. Konk, continue playing. Keep it up. It's no longer attacking." Hua Yueshing could not understand what was happening. Her energy arrows were no match for the melody of a mere mortal. She could not help but look at the 16-year-old Miss Konk. Konk was fair without any flaws. Her movements were graceful and moving. The look in her eyes as she played the flute was solemn and resolute. This was probably an inherent talent. Zhou was surprised as well. Tiango was no ordinary beast. It seemed to have undergone some special Rolian training for it to be so powerful. Although it could not breach the barrier, based on its attack, it was clear it was strong. Meanwhile, Duanmu Sheng brandished his overlord spear in front of the Great Hall. Lanny and his subordinates surrounded Duanmu Sheng. The overlord spear stabbed to the left and right. Pavilion Master, this is all a big misunderstanding. I can explain. Lanny did not expect a single Evil Sky Pavilion disciple to be this powerful. This disciple of the Evil Sky Pavilion did not seem to feel any pressure fighting 5 opponents alone. Instead, as the fight progressed, he seemed even more invigorated and fought even more valiantly. He knew that he could not allow this battle to drag on. Also, there were many who were watching this battle. When the others from the Evil Sky Pavilions make their moves, it would be too late. Duanmu Sheng cursed, "What's there to explain? Die." Duanmu Sheng suddenly waved his arm. The fruits of his constant training under the waterfall were clearly displayed at this moment. The speed at which he wielded his spear and the precision was almost flawless. Rolians had always been known for their agility, speed, and physical strength. However, at this moment, they were all pushed back by Duanmu Sheng. Someone has bewitched Tiango. They wanted to spur you into attacking, Pavilion Master. Lanny kept dodging as he explained loudly. Zhou looked up and glanced at Tiango, who was now hovering obediently above the barrier. Mingshi smiled and said, "If you're sincere, why would you bewitch Tiango?" Lanny frowned deeply. "I like your move of advancing by retreating. I must say that you've inherited most of my skills, but alas, that's not enough." Mingshi finally joined in the fray. Bam! Bam! 2 of Rolians were sent flying by Mingshi. Mingshi chuckled gleefully. "Here comes your grandfather, me." His entrance into the fight turned the tide of the battle immediately. At this moment, Lanny began making hand signs. He made a strange hand seal with his hands and launched it. Whiz. 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 The coffin inside the Great Hall began to move. Lanny retreated as a Wolf King avatar appeared. 5-leaf? When the avatar appeared, the coffin shone with red radiance as it sailed toward it. Mingshi dodged the coffin. Duanmu Sheng landed a few quick stabs on one end of the coffin. He was surprised to find that not a scratch could be seen on the coffin at all. "What's it made of? It's so tough." The coffin started to spin. It flew in a sweeping motion as it spun. Bam! Duanmu Sheng raised his overlord spear before himself to block it. Under the heavy impact, he spun back. The abnormality of the coffin was finally on display. Duanmu Sheng could not move it, not even with his heaven-grade overlord spear. The surface of the coffin kept glowing with a faint red light. This was rare among formation veins. When primal chi was condensed into energy, it would take on a golden hue. Why was the coffin shining with a red light? Ming-Shirin gave up on the coffin. He dove toward the five-leaf Lanny. Capture the king to capture the thief. He held his separation hook in a backhand grip as he moved at lightning speed. Lanny pushed with both palms. His Wolf King avatar pounced. Shockingly, and no less strange, the golden lotus under the Wolf King avatar shone with a red light as well. Red. Lu Zhou's expression darkened. He recalled a line from the book again, "I like gold, not red." Was it referring to this red light? Bam. Ming-Shirin drew his sword across Lani's energy shield. He retreated and hovered in the air. When he focused his gaze, he noticed ripples in Lani's energy that was quickly restored. What a mysterious object. Ming-Shirin turned to look at the coffin. Duanmu Shang was occupied by it. Who would believe that a mere five-leaf cultivator was capable of dealing with Duanmu Shang and Ming-Shirin at the same time? However, Duanmu Shang and Ming-Shirin were only at the three-leaf and the four-leaf stage. It would be arrogant for them to think they were the only powerful ones in the wide world. The red formation veins on the coffin were indeed intriguing. Shortly after, the red light on the coffin shone with greater intensity. Bam! Duanmu Shang's arms felt numb from the impact. He had no choice but to retreat. The coffin hovered before Lanny. He was flanked by his subordinates. He said, "Pavilion Master. I've traveled to visit you. I have no wish to make an enemy out of you. I'm here in the hopes of establishing a friendship. Why must you be so hostile?" Ming-Shirin said coldly, "Save your breath. Don't think that you can leave this place in one piece after causing such a scene. The Evil Sky Pavilion isn't a place where you can come and go as you please." This tactic of advancing by retreating was too common. Great Yen was more familiar with it compared to Roly. Lanny looked up at Tiango and flipped his palm. The coffin spun. Lu Zhou raised his palm. A palm seal sailed toward the coffin. Bam! The coffin continued spinning. However, this palm strike seemed to make Lanny happy and excited. Aha! I knew it. You're not a nine-leaf cultivator. Lu Zhou was puzzled. I only launched a single palm strike. How can he tell that I'm not a nine-leaf cultivator? Lanny began laughing maniacally. What I said is true. This coffin is real, and the books are real as well. The owner of the coffin once said that only a nine-leaf cultivator is powerful enough to break the formation veins of this coffin. The people of Great Yen are shameless and despicable for spreading false information about the nine-leaf stage. He suddenly flicked his finger. A beam of light shot toward Tiango in the air. Swish! The light hit Tiango between its eyes. Chirp! The deafening cry from the beast was unbearably deafening. At this moment, the song of the flute abruptly came to a halt. Lu Zhou looked at Conk and Little Yuan who were standing above the southern pavilion. Little Yuan and Hua Yuexing shielded Conk behind them. Energy arrows were formed and fired. Bam! 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 Meanwhile, Lu Zhou saw Lanny jump onto the coffin before he flew into the sky. Lu Zhou looked at the deadly strike card and sighed. He thought of his extraordinary power. Then, he pointed at two of Lanny's subordinates and said, "Take them down." Duanmu Shang and Ming-Shirin nodded in unison. A spear and a hook shot toward the two Rillians. Lu Zhou no longer hesitated. He stepped into the air. He spread his arms and straightened them before flipping them. He pushed his hand out, and a blue palm seal shot out from his palm. The scripts for abandoned wisdom appeared between his fingers. This palm seal seemed to contain enough power to destroy the world. While standing on the coffin, Lanny sensed the incoming huge palm seal. The massive palm seal seemed to bring with it 4 stars as it soared upward. Boom! His abandoned wisdom attack hit the coffin. Based on his calculations, 1/3 of his extraordinary power should be enough to kill Lanny in an instant. However, when the palm seal struck the coffin, it burst forth with a web-like scarlet light. When the palm seal and the red light collided, an explosion of energy rippled into the surroundings. The red coffin reeled back and dimmed. Lanny was affected by the backlash from the palm seal. His back arched with his limbs facing down as he fell toward the ground, facing the sky. He spat out a mouthful of blood when he hit the ground. Bam! The coffin and Lanny were sent out of the barrier by the attack. That was how a barrier worked. It was easy to get out but difficult to get in. Moreover, they had suffered damage from the palm strike. A single palm strike was all that was needed to deal heavy damage to Lanny. Mingxirin and Duanmusheng easily took care of the two subordinates. They looked up at the same time. Their master's palm seal. This was Lu Zhou's second instance of using abandoned wisdom. The first time he used it was during the battle in Liang province. He launched it while diving from above. The Confucian school's abandoned wisdom usually required the user to join both palms and use all their power. However, Lu Zhou unleashed it with a single palm with greater might and greater destructive strength. The coffin spun as it flew back. It was no longer glowing. However, Lu Zhou did not receive a notification from the system. This puzzled him. With his 5-leaf avatar and 1/3 of his extraordinary power, it should have been enough to kill Lanny. How did Lanny survive? Lu Zhou looked at the coffin and Lanny. As he expected, there was more to the coffin than meets the eyes. Lu Zhou stepped into the air and flew toward the coffin. He pirouetted in midair, releasing faint blue light from his feet before he stepped on the coffin. Boom! A ripple spread out from the tips of his toes like a heavenly light. The others were awed by the sight. The evil Sky Pavilion disciples were all admiring this scene. They looked on as their master rose to the skies. Since their master had made a move, there was no need for them to do anything. They truly enjoyed watching their master's energy seal. Lu Zhou stepped on the coffin and forced it back into the barrier. The coffin spun into the barrier. Mingxirin and Duanmusheng understood Lu Zhou's thoughts. They took flight at the same time and caught the coffin with their energies. At this moment, Tiango suddenly flapped its wings. Chirp! With the deafening and shrill cry, a gust of violent wind was stirred up. Lu Zhou paused in midair. A 2-leaf nascent divinity cultivation base was slightly too weak, after all. As he reeled back, Lanny fought back the pain in his internal organs, and he flew toward Tiango. He seemed desperate now. His eyes were bloodshot as he stood on Tiango's back. He cried out in anger, "What are you waiting for? Go!" A sharp cry rang in the air. Under Lanny's command, Tiango flapped its wings and fled in a frenzy. Lanny turned to look at Lu Zhou, who was coming toward him in the air. He tapped his own meridian points and said in a clear voice, "Even if you're not a 9-leaf cultivator, you're at least a 7 or 8-leaf cultivator." Feeling relaxed now, he patted Tiango's back as he continued to say, "After getting away from this battle, the Bonner family will one day flatten the entire Great Yen." At this moment, an imposing voice rang from behind him. "Did I say you're allowed to leave?" Lanny's heart shuddered. His eyes widened as he turned back to have a look. He saw Lu Zhou, that old man, chasing after him on Witzard's back. The pursuer and the one being pursued. Lu Zhou was approaching Lanny as Witzard picked up speed. In a few breaths. Faster. Lanny sunk his palm into Tiango's body. Tiango had wings to begin with. With its wild way of flying and speed, it seemed like a comet in the skies. Alas, its opponent was Witzard. Witzard was a mount whose speed and agility were on par with Tiango, if not superior. They would only be able to maintain the distance if they flew at the same speed. Lu Zhou stood on Witzard's back as he stroked his beard with his left hand and raised his right palm. He pointed it upward and conjured up his primal qi. Blue radiance shone from between his fingers again as the script's abandoned wisdom appeared. He straightened his arm. Whiz. When the palm seal appeared, it resonated clearly in the air. Meanwhile, Lanny unleashed all his primal qi and condensed it into energy. While his arms were crossed, a round formation vein rune shielded him. Zhou found this strange. The formation vein reminded him of the seal formation method of Great Yan's Confucian societies. However, that was not important now. At this moment, the massive abandoned wisdom's palm seal landed on Lanny and grazed Tiango. Lanny widened his eyes. The formation vein before his arms cracked and shattered. It could not withstand abandoned wisdom. Boom. Lanny and Tiango fell. At this moment, a group of people inside the forest looked up and saw Tiango flapping its wings as it fell. Stick to the plan and support the chief. Several cultivators in tights shuttled through the forest and headed toward Tiango's landing point at blinding speed. Zhou waved his arm and recalled Wizard. He was puzzled as he looked at Tiango and Lanny falling toward the ground. Why am I not hearing the system's notification? A trap? Fated bond? A strange term appeared unbidden in Zhou's mind before realization dawned on him. No wonder Lanny was so confident and was bold enough to bring a coffin to him. How sly. The fated bond was a method to share power in Great Yan. It was then adapted into witchcraft. When Wuya was afflicted by the binding mantra back then, he once thought of using Zhu Honggong to trick his master into breaking the mantra through this linking technique. The difference was, Lanny had tied his own life with that of Tiango's. In other words, Tiango's life was Lanny's life. So long as Tiango survives, he would not die. 1,000-pound drop. Zhou dove. Lanny had lost the ability to fight. With the strike from the abandoned wisdom's palm seal, his body's functions were severely affected. Boom. Tiango crashed into the dense forest and stirred up a cloud of dust. Whoosh. 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 From the forest in the distance, several figures closed in on Tiango at blinding speed. When Zhou descended near the canopy, he stopped and observed the ground from the air. This was the best vantage point. He looked up, 100 figures flew toward him while maintaining a low altitude from the north. A trap? However, Zhou did not think Lanny was a scheming person. The clouds of dust finally settled. The 100 individuals were closing in on him while flying on their swords. Zhou's gaze fell upon Tiango. Lanny raised his palm with difficulty and placed his palm on Tiango. A pebble-like spot of light flew into its forehead. He wiped the blood away from his mouth and smiled arrogantly. He clearly thought he had triumphed over Zhou. Zhou saw the people rushing toward him through the forest. He saw them move over Lanny's body, carry him up, and headed back. He did not know which sect those 100 sword cultivators belonged to, nor did he know if they were friends or foes. No matter. Zhou raised his palm. A disguise card appeared in his palm. He closed his fingers. A faint energy leaked out from his palm as the card shattered. Whiz. A 150-foot avatar towered in the air. The golden lotus under its feet seemed to be full of life as it shone with dazzling brilliance. 9 shining golden leaves spun around the golden lotus at a constant speed. While being carried on the cultivators' backs, Lanny opened his eyes and felt his heart stop beating for an instant. 9 leaf. Zhou stood proudly above his avatar's golden lotus. Regardless of the origins of the 100 sword cultivators, he projected his voice with rich primal chi and ordered, "Take down the other tribesmen."